Have you ever felt like completely paralyzed because you have 50 different people shouting contradictory advice at you?
Oh, yeah, constantly.
Right. You want to make a career change or, invest your savings or even just figure out how to spend your weekend, and suddenly you are drowning in a sea of opinions about the right way to do it.
It's advice overload. It's
It
exhausting.
really is. So today we are doing a deep dive into this brilliant short story translated from Hindi. It's called The Donkey's Lesson. And our mission is to basically find the ultimate antidote to that advice overload.
It's such great text for this.
Yeah, we're exploring the timeless battle between your own internal conviction and the relentless noise of the crowd. And there is a massive engineered plot twist at the very end of the source material that completely reframes everything you think you know about making decisions.
Okay.
Let's unpack this.
Well, it is a phenomenal text to dig into because the setup is just elegantly simple.
Mm-hmm.
But it isolates this psychological trap that almost everyone falls into at some point in their lives.
Setting the scene right.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So the narrative centers on a farmer who has spent his entire life working the land in a large village. And he has this young adult son.
And the son has just returned home after spending years in the city, like acquiring a formal education.
Right. And right away, the source material exposes the son's fatal flaw. I mean, he assumes his shiny city education translates directly into real-world wisdom.
He doesn't.
Not at all. He is profoundly naive.
Yeah.
Because he lacks any practical anchor, he blindly trusts the words of absolute strangers.
Yeah, he just leaps into random business ventures without a shred of personal experience or passion, simply because an outsider told him it was guaranteed success.
And predictably, he hemorrhages money.
Right.
I mean, every single venture just collapses.
Which brings in the father's perspective, right?
Yeah. The father brings this heavily grounded, practical perspective to the crisis. He urges the son to stop letting external voices dictate his choices.
He's basically like, pick a lane you actually know.
It's exactly. The father's advice is clear. Choose a business you actually understand, something where you have foundational experience, and, something that genuinely brings you joy.
Right.
He recognizes that sustainable success requires a personal connection to the work, not just some theoretical promise of profit.
It's so easy to see the modern equivalent of this son, though. Like, think about your own social media feeds.
Oh, absolutely.
He's the person blindly following online influencers, financial influencers into like drop shipping businesses or obscure cryptocurrency markets.
Chasing the hype.
Right, chasing these things simply because a stranger in a well-lit video promised a shortcut to wealth. But those are markets that require deep technical knowledge, severe risk tolerance, and complex supply chain management.
Yeah, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Because he doesn't understand the underlying mechanics of what he is investing in, he just gets wiped out.
He's confusing the volume of someone else's confidence with the validity of the information. He assumes that because someone speaks with authority, they must possess wisdom.
I hear that, but let's look at it from the son's perspective for a second. It is incredibly difficult to build an internal compass in a vacuum.
That's fair.
Like, isn't the father somewhat responsible for isolating the son on this farm? The kid went to the city, got an education, and is actively trying to expand his horizons beyond manual labor. Shouldn't we applaud him for seeking out external perspectives? Like, why is his formal education completely failing to protect him here?
Well, his education is failing him because it has given him a severe case of intellectual arrogance, but without the requisite critical thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. He dismisses his father as ignorant simply because the father's knowledge is tied to dirt and physical labor.
Right.
The son has mastered the art of accumulating data points, memorizing facts in a city classroom. But he completely misses the immense value of practical lived experience.
Because gathering information is totally useless if you haven't developed the internal judgment to actually filter and apply it.
Exactly. He relies entirely on the judgment of others to bypass the hard work of thinking for himself.
But lecturing a stubborn kid rarely works. And because the son lacks that practical experience, he literally cannot comprehend the abstract wisdom his father is offering.
No, it just goes right over his head.
Yeah, the father can tell him all day long to trust his gut, but the son just rolls his eyes. So the father realizes he has to change the environment to teach the lesson, basically moving from theoretical lectures to a physical demonstration.
And that transition introduces the core narrative device of the story, The Donkey Ride.
Yeah.
It is an absolute masterclass in the dangers of infinite feedback.
Let me set the parameters of this journey for you. The father casually mentions that there is a stray donkey wandering their farm. No one has claimed it, and it provides, like, zero utility to them.
Right.
So he suggests they simply walk the donkey to the market and sell it. The son is thrilled. He ignores all the work involved and only sees a quick influx of cash to fund his next misguided venture.
Of course he does.
So they tie a rope to the donkey and head down the road. And what unfolds are 5 distinct encounters with strangers that perfectly illustrate the absolute impossibility of universal approval.
What's fascinating here is, rather than looking at these encounters chronologically, we really should look at how the crowd's criticism morphs and escalates.
It gets so out of hand.
It does. What starts as a practical critique quickly spirals into a series of deeply personal moral attacks.
Yeah. So at first, a passerby mocks them purely on the basis of utility. They're walking alongside the donkey, and the stranger calls them fools for not utilizing a perfectly good beast of burden.
Right.
So to avoid looking foolish, the son immediately alters their strategy. The father gets on the donkey, and the son walks.
Which fixes the optimization problem, but walks them right into a moral trap.
Exactly, because then 2 men shame the father for riding comfortably while making his young son walk in the dust.
Notice this shift there. The crowd is no longer judging their logic. They're attacking their familial compassion. And because the son is like a ship without a keel, possessing no internal weight or direction, even the slightest breeze of external criticism completely blows him off course.
So he forces his father off the donkey and climbs on himself.
Which, predictably, immediately triggers an attack from another stranger, this time about respect for tradition.
Right. This new person is outraged that a strong young man is riding like a king while forcing his elderly father to walk.
So what do?
They both climb onto the donkey.
Naturally.
They think they've finally solved the puzzle of public opinion. Like, they're utilizing the animal, they're sharing the burden, they're respecting both youth and age.
But then the final moral trap snaps shut. 2 more people approach, completely disgusted, and accuse them of animal cruelty.
Yep.
They shame the father and son for overburdening a poor, mute creature, basically threatening to break its back.
And the son's reaction to this is really the most alarming part of the entire narrative. Every single time a stranger speaks, his entire strategy changes.
He never pauses.
Never. He never stops to evaluate the reality of the situation. He never asks, like, is the donkey actually struggling? Do my father and I feel comfortable with this arrangement?
Right.
He simply internalizes every piece of unsolicited feedback as objective truth.
That is the psychology of conformity at work right there. I mean, we are biologically wired to belong to the tribe because historically, being cast out meant death.
Wow, yeah.
So the son's brain is interpreting social friction, the disapproval of these strangers, as an actual existential threat. He's desperately trying to appease the crowd, not out of logic, but out of a primal urge to avoid social rejection.
And that primal urge drives them to a breaking point that is utterly absurd.
It really is.
Desperate to appease the animal cruelty critics, they realize they cannot walk alongside the donkey, they cannot ride it individually, and they cannot ride it together.
So they run out of normal options.
Entirely. To avoid all criticism, they find a strong wooden pole. They tie the donkey's legs together, turn the heavy animal completely upside down, lift the pole onto their own shoulders, and attempt to carry the donkey down the road.
It is the ultimate manifestation of people-pleasing.
Yeah.
I mean, they have physically contorted themselves into the most agonizing, illogical position imaginable.
Unsurprisingly, a group of people sees them take a few steps and just bursts out laughing, mocking them by yelling, "Look, 2 donkeys are carrying a donkey."
Ouch.
Right. But I want us to look past the physical comedy of that image. Treat this as a profound psychological warning. Think about how far intelligent adults will go and how much pain they will endure simply to avoid social friction. At what point does being receptive to feedback cross the line into completely abandoning your own common sense?
Well, receptivity to feedback is healthy, but only if that feedback is filtered through your own lived experience and your core values.
Yeah.
Without that filter, you aren't being coachable. You're just being compliant. You become a puppet to whoever happens to be speaking the loudest.
Exactly.
The son has been so intensely coachable that he is literally carrying a farm animal upside down on a stick to appease people he does not even know.
Which brings us to the aftermath. Covered in dust, their shoulders aching, being openly mocked by the village, they finally drop the donkey. They untie the animal and collapse under the shade of a nearby tree.
And this moment under the tree is really where the philosophical weight of the story truly lands.
Yeah, this is the turning point.
The son hits absolute rock bottom, and it forces an epiphany. Sitting there in the dirt, he explicitly tells his father that they will no longer listen to anyone else.
He's done.
He's completely done. He finally grasps that everyone possesses a different perspective and a different agenda. It's mathematically impossible to accommodate the entire crowd.
Right.
So he resolves that, moving forward, they must only execute actions that feel correct to their own judgment and bring them personal joy.
His entire value system just shifts instantly. Like, before this exhausting walk, he was perfectly happy to sell a stray animal to harvest unearned cash for a fake business. But sitting under that tree, he tells his father they must find the donkey's rightful owner and return it. Profiting from someone else's loss no longer aligns with his newly formed internal compass.
That's a huge shift.
It is. Furthermore, he abandons his hollow ambition of being a hotshot city businessman. He decides to stay on the farm and do the hard, practical labor alongside his father, recognizing that this authentic work will bring him genuine fulfillment.
He's choosing the reality of the dirt over the illusion of the noise. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a crucial line later in the text that really cements this transformation.
Oh, yeah.
After working the farm successfully, the son reflects on his earlier business failures. He tells his father that his previous ventures weren't actually a loss of money, they were a loss of thought.
A loss of thought. I love that phrasing. Let's unpack the mechanics of that phrase because it is hyper-relevant to how we live today.
Absolutely.
We are constantly outsourcing our foundational thinking to external systems. We let the GPS navigate our route so we lose our internal sense of direction. We let social media algorithms dictate our political outrage.
We let generative AI write our emails and draft our proposals.
Exactly. We are adopting the conclusions of these systems without ever doing the foundational cognitive work to understand how those conclusions were reached.
And when you borrow an idea without understanding its structural integrity, you haven't gained wisdom. You've merely rented an opinion.
Rented an opinion. Wow.
The loss of thought the son experienced was his total reliance on the crowd to do his risk assessment for him. By outsourcing his judgment, he allowed his critical thinking muscles to just atrophy entirely.
And the father validates this realization with a summarizing maxim that balances both sides of the equation. He tells his son, listen to everyone's advice, but make decisions based on your own understanding and experience.
It's a really profound framework.
It is. You do not have to isolate yourself or shut out external data. Gather the perspectives, analyze the feedback, but you must remain the supreme court of your own life. You are the final judge.
It honors the son's initial instinct to seek outside information, but it demands the integration of the one crucial ingredient he was missing, which is personal accountability.
On the surface, this feels like the perfect, neat conclusion to a classic fable. The arrogant son is humbled, the wise father is vindicated, and they find harmony. But the source material contains a hidden architectural detail in the final lines that shatters that neat conclusion and just reframes the entire narrative.
Yeah, the twist transforms the story from a simple morality tale into a brilliant study of experiential learning.
Here's where it gets really interesting. In the final bracketed secret of the text, the narrator discloses that the father never told his son that the entire donkey drama was a deliberate staged act.
He orchestrated the whole thing.
Yes. The supposedly uneducated, dirt-covered farmer orchestrated the entire ridiculous journey. He knew exactly how susceptible his son was to peer pressure. He knew the crowd would offer relentless, contradictory criticism. He intentionally engineered this exact scenario to force his son to experience the crushing weight of trying to please everyone.
The father is a master psychologist. I mean, he weaponized the crowd's judgment to teach a lesson that mere words could never convey.
Think about the immense restraint that requires from a mentor or a parent.
Oh, yeah?
It's like a brilliant professor watching you study entirely the wrong material for a final exam. Instead of interrupting you, handing you the correct study guide, and demanding you memorize it, they just let you walk into the exam room.
They let you fail.
They let you sweat, panic, and completely fail the test. Why? Because they know the visceral pain of that failure will sear the lesson into your brain permanently. Abstract warnings about not caring what people think always fail, because our ego immediately whispers, oh, I already know how to do that.
Right. You cannot simply explain the danger of outsourcing their judgment. The son had to physically feel the agonizing exhaustion of carrying a donkey upside down on his shoulders before his neurobiology could finally register that his operating system was broken.
Yeah.
He had to experience the sheer absurdity of the crowd to recognize the necessity of his own intuition.
The father willingly let himself be mocked. He walked in the dust and bore the weight of that heavy wooden pole purely to construct an environment where his son could discover the truth on his own terms.
And the implications of this orchestration are massive. It challenges us to look at the pain points in our own lives through a completely different lens.
How so?
Well, how often do the wise figures in our lives, or simply the circumstances of the universe, allow us to carry a heavy, utterly absurd burden, just so we can finally learn the lesson required to put it down?
Oh, wow.
How often are our most embarrassing failures actually carefully constructed classrooms?
That is such a good point. Think about your own career, your relationships, or your daily obligations right now. Are you carrying a metaphorical upside-down donkey?
Probably.
Are you twisting your life into impossible knots trying to simultaneously appease your boss, your spouse, your parents, and your digital network, all while ignoring what actually makes logical sense to you? Because if you're operating that way, you are undoubtedly exhausted.
And, much like the sun, you're likely drawing the mockery of the exact people you're attempting to impress.
Right.
A life lived entirely by committee always looks ridiculous from the outside, because a committee has no singular vision.
Gathering perspectives is a crucial part of navigating the modern world. But advice is a tool, it is not a mandate. True wisdom is cultivating a strong enough internal filter to know when to stop absorbing the noise of the crowd and when to finally trust the ground beneath your own 2 feet. You have to be willing to be the one who decides, even if it means walking away from the consensus.
Sometimes, you simply have to carry the donkey to realize you never needed to pick it up in the first place.
So what does this all mean? Look around at the deeply frustrating situations in your life right now, the places where you feel like you are constantly hitting a wall and drowning in contradictory feedback. What if those situations aren't actually obstacles blocking your path?
Yeah.
What if they're just staged donkey lessons? What if they're specifically designed to teach you something about your own internal strength that you are simply too stubborn to learn just by listening? Trust your own understanding, put down the donkey, and we will catch you next time.